Hey guys, welcome to another 31 Horror Toys in 31 Days review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Mcfarlane Toys Sleepy Hollow Headless Horseman figure. And this guy is totally awesome. He does have a few problems and a few little issues here and there, but mainly he fits his purpose. So let's take a look at the sculpt and paint of the body, then we'll get to accessories, and then we'll go over articulation. So to start out, the body, as you can see, does not have a head. However, he does come with a head, so I suppose I should review the head with the body at first, right? The head sculpt looks a lot like Christopher Walken. I like his mangled teeth just like in the movie. Very sharp, nice paint to them. It's got a yellow tooth part with some black wash inside from the looks of that. And then he's got just an overall very well painted face with these little dirt marks here and there. Then these weird eyes that just are creepy. Perfect. Hair sculpt is very well done. Looks a little windblown, very brushed around like the actor's hair looked. Yeah, no complaints with this head sculpt, and it does technically have a little articulation since it doesn't actually peg in. It's sort of just free roaming, and you can do whatever you want with it. And it's made out of rubber, so that's the head sculpt. But the sculpt of the cape, let's talk about, is just amazing. Look at that, it's got all sorts of tattered marks on it. Detailed to just like the bear, it's amazing. Then under that there's this sort of redness that's been painted. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. I think that's just, it's the lining of the cape that's red, yeah. Looks cool. Very well painted. Not sure if that's actual dirt or paint, but looks good. Then there's the collar of the cape, which looks amazing. Then the detail on the chest part. Very, just like completely amazing with the tiny little sculpt detail that they put in there. All these little folds and stuff, very well done. There's his gauntlets, or whatever you want to call them, big gloves that go back, and they have this big metal piece here with a symbol on it. I believe he was a Haitian, is that what they call him? Then he's got this big belt buckle, which goes around, very well sculpted, and this is made out of a rubber plastic, which is pliable and does not hinder the articulation, which, you know, there's not too much articulation there. Then his boots are well painted and well sculpted, a little red detail put in there, a little silver detail, then just sort of a silverish color with a black wash in there. Looks cool. I think that's supposed to be like chainmail. And there's this crease down the middle that almost looks like it's a separate part, like you could open it up, but it's not. It's solid sculpt. And little spurs at the back. And these spurs surprisingly did not break off. Usually, like, when there's a spur on a figure, it just breaks off. And something creepy that I just noticed is these are faces that are kind of like spitting out, or the spur is their tongue. See that? It's got like their hair going around the boot. That is creepy. Yeah, Sleepy Hollow is a great movie. I love that a lot. It's very horrifying. They even did the sculpt on the back here and painted it, of the stitching of the back, then as well as the sculpting of all the cape. Amazing. Just very well done there. Back when Mcfarlane was big into detail. And to be honest, I think the articulation on this guy is better than the 7-inch Walking Dead figures that he has now. Okay, and at the wrist... Oh no, wait, I already did that. Yeah, it's got nice paint. So that's the paint and sculpt. Let's talk about the accessories now, which I am missing his actual sword. This is just a sword that I have that I put in his hand because, well, the Headless Horseman has to have a sword, right? But he does come with the blade weapon that he came with, which is an axe, so that's cool. Let's take a look at that. It's very well painted. Silver with black wash on it, and then some little specks of blood on there. Let me see if I can get some focus on it. Yeah, it looks like we're getting that. And just, yeah, it looks really cool. There we go. And then the wood part even has the graininess to it. I like that. Black wash, dark brown. And that fits into his hand very well. I pull him up here, get that focus back in, and let's slip that into his hand, which the fingers aren't separated, so you can't like put anything that's not really meant for his hand in there. Unless it's thin, it can slide through. Like this axe, kind of is hard to get into this hand because I think it's supposed to go in the other one. But he holds it fairly fairly well in there. Let's take that out without breaking it. Oig. There we go. And put it in the other hand, which is a little bit of a bigger opening, I think. Jeez. I remember this being a lot easier to do. Technical issue. Let me pull this aside for a second. Come on, man. We had an agreement. You would work. Urgh. Okay, so here's one of the complaints. This axe handle does not fit into his hand as easy as remembered. Yeah, just slide it on in there. Yeah, it is supposed to go in this hand. It's just, once you get past that first base that's extremely thick for some reason, then it fits perfectly. And I believe this is the weapon that he used to cut off these people's heads, which is very well sculpted. Look at those head sculpts. They didn't really just skimp on those, did they? It actually looks like the actor and actress. They look really sad. It's kind of, you know, depressing to see these poor fellas' heads, and their hair sculpt is very well done. There's no detail paint on the hair clip there or whatever, ponytail, but not a problem. The hair's painted well, and then it has a black wash in it. That looks cool. There's his eyes, nicely painted and aligned fairly well, keep in mind. Teeth are well painted too. Look at that. They even sculpted the little teeth and then painted it and then deepened his mouth, added blackness. Just detail that you wouldn't see nowadays. Look, even her teeth. And then at the base here, some gore, which you always have to have in a nice Halloween horror video. And let's slip that into his hand, which their hair sort of comes up into this little handle that you can slide into his hand, and it looks good. You can like show it off to people. Maybe it's like a scary looking trick-or-treat bag. Trick-or-treat. You open it up and put it into their heads. That would be horrifying. If anyone ever did that to me, I would not give them candy. I'd also like to point out how this is sculpted and painted here. Looks very gross and fresh. And then the underside here also does. I like that a lot. You can even see the little spine there. Connect that in there, and it pops in fairly easily. Now let's talk about articulation, since everything else has been pretty much done. For the head, it's basically, yeah, there is a little bit. You can sort of put it in a certain way where it's turned, and then put it in a different way where it's turned, but it's sort of just set on there. When it's dead on, it just sticks in very well. I'm not sure why. This must just be the pressure of the neck folding out a little bit extra, and then when you put it in there, it's solid. Okay, and then for the arms, he can move up this much, and then move down, backwards. It's hindered by the cape, but he can move it that much. That's pretty good. And then it's about the same with the other side, except for going up, it gets stuck around this point. And then at the elbows, it's not actually at the elbow, it's more at the bicep here, where it does a full 360 swivel. And then at the end of his gauntlet, I guess, there's another 360 spin. No elbow articulation, that's to point out. Then at the other arm, it's the same thing with 360 spin here, and then not at the wrist, apparently. So this time, it's actually at the elbow is that spin, and then the gauntlet does not do another spin, so that's unfortunate. Then at the waist, there's articulation that could go full 360, which, you don't really have a reason to move them around too much, so you're pretty much just going to have them in this position, but it's okay to have the articulation. Then, unfortunately, again, no hip articulation, and then the next articulation is at, like, mid-hip, so you're not really going to be moving them into these sort of positions. So something that Mcfarlane seems to have always had trouble with is deciding where articulation should go. I have no idea why. It's like he's never actually tried to pose any of his figures. But yeah, he can do a little bit of movement if you want, which is okay if like his leg is warped and you need to move him around. That would be helpful. So basically, that's all I can say about the figure right there. And I do think this guy is really cool. He's definitely worth adding into your collection. He's a horror figure indeed. And there are other figures from this line which I believe I will be reviewing in these 31 days, so stick around for that. And I'd like to point out, he does fit in with NECA figures fairly well. Here he is next to Ash. They stand at just about the same height. But he could kind of fit in with 6-inch figures if you want, which is kind of odd. This is a taller figure of 6 inches, but let's grab a figure like him. Yeah, I believe the Headless Horseman is supposed to be very tall, so kind of works out. So anyway, tell me what you guys think about this figure. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stick around for some size comparisons. The Headless Horseman stands at just under 7 inches tall. Here he is next to a WWE figure. Here he is next to a Marvel Legends figure. And here he is next to a horrified looking Dale.